Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school.
Welcome, everybody, to the MC Variety Hour, Mini-sodes with Crawford. Tonight I have a special guest star, Miller, as we will call him.
How's it going?
I've mentioned him many times over our podcasting, especially because Miles loves conspiracy theories. And before she can tell me about something, I'm like, oh yeah, my special man friend, my boyfriend Jason, he tells me all the time that he's always telling me about conspiracies, and I'm like, oh yeah, he knows all about that. So
I used to do that.
Yeah,
but then I kind of realized that maybe I was crazy. When you start reading that stuff, you read enough of it, you
know what it was? It was the Mayan thing. Like, he was like, we got 4 years to live. I'm not joking. Like,
it wasn't that bad. I wasn't like that. I wasn't sitting there trying to build like pyramids outside.
No, he wasn't. No, he definitely looked into a couple bunkers though. I know.
I definitely fell into the. It's like a trap. It's like you start reading it like, oh yeah, maybe it is like that. Maybe
that's what I call you, chicken.
What happens? What does happen if all the planets align?
I know. You're like, you freaked me out too.
And I was reading, a lot of that stuff, and then I was, I was like, I was like, fuck it, people die every day. I was like, why do you got to make a big deal out of it? Research into it and stuff like that. Something comes. Well, crazy.
You have a huge bank of conspiracy theory knowledge.
A fair amount, yes, a fair amount.
We could probably do a quiz show, and we just have as like a contestant.
It's funny because now when people like bring it up, I just kind of like, oh yeah.
I heard about that years ago.
Yeah, no, actually, it's all pretty unlikely at this point.
But not the ones that we're going to talk about.
No, these actually happened. These things did happen.
I mean, conspiracy theories in general, but we were talking about like historical knowledge, things like that. He's got vast knowledge.
I think
in his brain of all kinds of shit.
It was on. Do you remember the Sherlock series?
Yeah, of course I do.
Okay,
we love that
I was
series
on there
with
one time. Watson. He was having a conversation with another doctor, and they were just talking about, conspiracy theories and things like that. And the only difference, he said, between being a nutter is if you're right or not. Otherwise.
We love Sherlock here on the MC Variety Hour. One of our favorite shows, actually.
It is. I like it a lot.
So we're going to talk about the government and how you should trust it fully with all your heart if you want to be a true patriot, because they definitely have never experimented on us, given us venereal diseases.
It's kind of weird. I start to wonder if, like, when I was reading over this stuff, I thought about the idea of, like, everybody's, the trumpets, I guess, or trumpers.
We hate the orange Cheetos.
They always talk about making America great again, and I'm looking back, and this is what's happening towards that time that they're looking at. It's like, is this what you mean? Is this? You want to be experimented on again? You want the government to just do like really shady shit again?
Inject poison. Well, one of them we were talking about where they sprayed chemicals into the air, and then that will probably circle us around to chemtrails. How that's still an ongoing conspiracy to this day.
I guess that's kind of the thing. Is
people are catching on to it now. I see my Facebook all the time. I'm like, I heard about that like 10 years ago, y'all. You've been breathing some shit for a minute.
Right? People are like, no, you're just being... And it's like, yeah, maybe. But they've done it before.
Yeah.
I mean, they have actually done it. So you don't know. You're just being paranoid.
We actually have a short story about some... I made show notes, everybody, because I am organized like that. I
guess it's kind of like, if you're kind of paranoid that someone's going to put something in your butt. But the thing is, they put things in your butt before. You didn't know. You didn't find out till later. And you're like, so they put something in my butt that time. And then, so the next time comes around, you're sitting there, is someone trying to put something in my butt? No. Are you being paranoid or are you just being cautious?
It's a fine line to walk, isn't it?
It is. It's like, I don't want people to think I'm crazy, but damn it, I just don't want to get caught off guard.
I can't find it now. I probably wrote it under something. Anyways, it was about, they were firing like diseases into a fog cloud that was going to move over San Francisco.
Oh yeah,
and it was like 1,000 people.
It was a test. They wanted to actually test bacteria.
Yes.
How it would spread. Like if the Russians or if, some other foreign power wanted to try and use that as a weapon. So they were testing, like, how quickly it could spread and stuff. So they used stuff that they thought was going to be not really dangerous. Which one was it?
It's called the military poison test.
Oh, okay, I see that.
In 1942, some paranoid members of the War Department worried about the security and how wide open and vulnerable the U.S. really was. On their recommendation, President Roosevelt created the Biological Warfare Bureau. Officially, it was to study the country's weakness to biological warfare and devise a plan if any of the U.S. enemies decided to drop some dirty, nasty stuff.
Right.
So, for 20 years, the Bureau's method for testing this weakness came in the form of the Department of Defense repeatedly dousing cities across America with chemicals, fungal spores, and bacteria which they thought were mostly harmless. One such test, of more than 200 or so, happened in September of 1950 when a U.S. Navy ship near San Francisco used a fire hose. A fucking fire hose. Really? Could you? I want to know about that guy's life. I want to know his life story. You want to talk about that, sir? You know he's named Carl.
He had a wild looking.
He's got
I'm sure. You get really excited as soon as it's like, turn on the hose.
Seems like a Carl or a Bill. Anyways, probably a Bill since back then. But anyways, all right. To spray tons of bacteria into a fog bank drifting over the city. After infecting a city, officials would later check local hospitals to see the effect of their experiments. Thousands were affected by this experiment. Not satisfied, why would the government? With the hunger in their eyes.
Right, it's never enough.
They pressed on to find more data on how biological attacks spread. They dusted I hate this word, the rural juror. Do you remember that? What? Do you remember that from 30 Rock? She was in a movie and it was called The Rural Juror.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, you didn't get my reference. That totally fell flat, everybody. I hope somebody out there giggled, though. They dusted rural areas with carcinogenic causing cadmium. Is that how you would say that? You know.
Yes.
As well as many schools in Minneapolis. Okay, then.
What are we really going to fuck up here?
Super.
I love that accent. I love
I know. We do it all the time on that.
It's like a cute little teddy bear. Oh, you're so sweet.
Yeah, Miles has some history out there, so she always, okay then.
It's like when you watch Fargo, it's hard to take them seriously because it's like the way you talk is adorable. I see that you're putting a person in a wood chipper, but damn.
That's so cute talking the way. The cover story at the time was that the military was experimenting with shrouding smoke screens in case of a nuclear attack. And then in 1966, agents threw light bulbs filled with the bacteria Bacillus globigi, a pathogen that causes food poisoning. Ugh. Has also coated the clothes, skins, and hair of subway passengers onto the subway tracks to see if the whoosh of air from the trains would spread the contaminants. It turns out it would. Samples dropped at 14th Street were found as far away as the 59th Street station. Yeah. So that's a long way down the track. So that's just a couple of ways where they're like, coat stuff you touch, y'all. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. In your air, and that brings us back to chemtrails.
It's kind of like farting in a room and see how far someone can smell it.
Yeah, like...
okay.
I know you said you don't want to say anything back there.
I see you wincing.
I know you're trying to hold out. Mess with my pool of sample.
That's the thing actually I thought about when I was reading all this. It's like that's what kind of it's like the concept of science. It's like what makes it science. It's just the idea like, okay, if you record it, if you're just writing it down, if you write down then it's science as long as you can keep repeating it.
I documented
that's all it takes.
So
it's a beautiful thing.
I'm doing research. And you just gotta find one idiot with money who has the same interest as you to get your funding,
I wonder if you walked around with just a clipboard, as long as you had a clipboard and a pen, and you walk up and you just smack somebody, and the moment they react you start writing it down. If they would have a different reaction, they'd be like, this is for science.
I'm being bothered for my response. What is my response?
You could smack as many people as you want. All in the name of science.
You really could. You might get punched a couple times. Never let go of your clothes.
But write that down too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got punched.
All right.
80 out of 100 respondents slapped me back immediately.
And that's science. That's suddenly science. Now you're not an asshole anymore.
You should do a 20-year study and see if people get angrier over time. Back in 1990, I was like a 30 out of 100.
Are people more sensitive now than they used to be? Well, I've been slapping people for 30 years, John. They definitely seem... Granted, it's been the same people. They seem to be getting a little more agitated.
Let me tell you something about slap folks. That's stupid. We need to get through these. Let's talk about... Oh, what's that one I was really like? Okay.
Oh, Operation Midnight Climax.
No, drop it down into your low voice.
That's got it. I can't believe that nobody took it.
Something for our lady listeners.
Midnight Climax.
All right. So,
I can't believe they didn't make a porn parody of this. It didn't happen.
You know what?
Of course, you know what? I haven't done my research on that.
I was just gonna say, I guarantee you they did.
But I'm sure I would
like
get 100 results if I typed those two words into
Operation Midnight Climax 23 out there. The mission continues.
You know, like somebody's out there still and being like, no, I'm doing science, man.
What was that soft porn on Showtime?
This was one of my favorites. This was one of my favorite ones.
I'm gonna let you pilot it then and talk about it.
Because, like, who you know, what it says during the
sponsored.
1950s, it was CIA sponsored. It was San Francisco and New York.
Again, San Francisco.
They call it safe houses by prostitutes. Whore houses. I don't mean to, like, you know, shit on any whores out there.
It's an honorable profession.
It's the oldest profession.
It is.
There's something appreciative, you know, something you can appreciate about the direct exchange.
Right. When both parties are willing. I mean, we don't want to get into the dirty side of sex services, but I mean, legit women who are like, and men who are like, if you pay me $100, I will let you suck my dick.
Right? It's like, this is what I need. I have money. I need this.
A form of currency. I felt that way for a long time. Like, can I pay my rent? Let me just give you a little hand job. No eye contact.
So, yeah, they took these people in and they would unknowingly give them LSD.
That's not
unknowingly. They don't do that anymore, I don't think. They had enough of that. That's too bad, because I know plenty of people who would go searching, you know, just wandering into random whorehouses, just hoping they give them a drop of LSD. But
how many whores do you have to fuck to get it acid around here? That means somebody's dilemma. Like, you know how much acid costs?
Now, what did they think? I'm curious, though. I don't see in this. I was like, I see what they did. I don't see why. Why? What did they hope to gain from this?
That was during the LSD experiments when they thought it would make the military gave it to their soldiers because they thought it would make them super soldiers.
Right.
You ever see that black and white footage?
Yeah, and they just ended up like climbing trees and things like that, and they're all hanging out in the field.
They're all wandering around the woods.
Here.
Yeah,
I love nature.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. They're like, this is worthless. They're not killing each other at all.
That's exactly what happened.
It is. They did
not get far with LSD. They were like, this shit is goofy.
The government has no use for peaceful drugs.
Nope.
None. Like, they don't want them.
I mean, if they thought LSD, what do you think they're actually... Maybe that's how all these crazy, like that flakka down in Florida, it makes people, like, you know, and there's been, like, angel dust. Like, maybe that's...
Flakka. Is that the bath salts?
I think so. It's something like... It's not bath salts, but it's like bath salts.
Is that the guy who was, like, eating another guy's face?
I don't think...
And they found him.
I feel like... And I apologize to anybody that might be in Florida listening, but Florida is literally the toilet bowl of America.
No, if they live in Florida, they know that.
I know, because the craziest headlines come out of Florida. Like, the worst crimes, the worst people, the worst weather, like gator attacks, you know?
Well, you never go to Florida for a rational reason.
No.
You don't go down there because you hear the job market's good. Or you don't go down there because it's a good place to raise kids.
How many people, though, we're in Ohio, and how many people do you know who are like, I'm moving to Florida? And they do. And then they come back 2 months later, broke, living in their car.
It's because
it didn't work out.
They find out the winter's not that bad. Because you can see the winter coming. You can't see the crazy people coming. They just pop out of a shadow and then they, shank you.
Don't you know, like, all the old people in Ohio go to Florida for the winter. They winter in Florida. It's too cold up here for them, so they're like, fuck this, I'm going to Florida for 6 months.
I know, it's not like we're Wisconsin or Canada, though.
Yeah, it's not like freezing Canada. I don't appreciate those Arctic winds that come down from Canada.
Maybe it's something about the cold just chills you out for a while.
Yeah, you like
You know,
that.
slows you down a little bit.
I don't like to leave the house.
I wonder what it's like. I've never lived in a place where it was warm all year round.
I did for a minute. I lived down in Georgia for a little while. That was...
Yeah, something about winter just kind of makes you slow down and think about your choices for a little bit.
It's time to hibernate.
Oh, I've got to go in the house for 30 months. Maybe 40.
Did we ever finish talking about what the midnight climax? So, yeah.
No, I don't think they... I don't know what they learned by it. They just gave people like
says,
LSD without their node and let them have sex with prostitutes. Here's the thing, though. Okay, LSD, that lasts a while. And it takes a while to kick in. It's like, how long do these people have to hang out at this whorehouse?
Before they get to LSD.
Before they're just like, I'm going to go. And they're like, no, you need to stay here.
We need to watch you.
But I've already...
They did.
I paid.
Had one-way glass.
Yeah. I'm allowed to leave at this point.
Operation Midnight Climax was a theater for extensive research on sexual blackmail, surveillance technology, and the use of mind-altering drugs on field operations.
So they had to kind of know who was coming and going.
Maybe.
If it's blackmail. I mean, you're just not going to blackmail Tom that works at the hardware store.
What does LSD have to do with sexual blackmail, though? Like, a girl can get a dude. So what else? Do we want to talk about some human experiments? The government likes to experiment on us. First of all, the 50s were crazy in America.
Oh, I know. They were trying anything.
They were like, let's just... I mean, the Nazis...
What if we put ketchup in their eyes?
Everybody else is killing their people. Let's do ours like the way it'll advance science, but be unbelievable. Mustard gas experiments. Those were in early part. Let's see, 1943.
Oh yeah, they did that on the soldiers.
Because
they just took them in a room. They even make their they had to go in with nothing but like their boxers on and a gas mask. They'd expose them to the mustard gas, and then it'd be like, "Hey, take off your masks." What a shitty thing.
They just claw at the walls, and it was pretty horrific from what I was reading.
Yeah, it was pretty nasty.
Burned their skin.
They made them keep quiet about it forever.
Yep.
It wasn't until 90. I think it was
and I read that the only reason that they admitted it is because they're waiting for all the people that they tested on to die.
Yeah, they don't even tell your doctor. It's like, what am I supposed to tell them that I've been there for?
Yeah,
my skin's peeling. I spend a lot of time on this.
The youngest of whom would now be around 93 years old.
Yeah.
So. And then there's a whole bunch of venereal disease.
Think about that. You talk about the things that are
syphilis.
going right now.
Yeah.
Well, no, just like how the VA, they're not taking care of the veterans.
No, they
come
don't.
back. But look how they used to take care of them.
It's like, I don't think we want them to take care of them, do we? I mean...
I know. Every time you walk into a government hospital, you should be at least a little bit worried.
A little concerned. I mean, they can be pumping something through the ventilation. Just saying.
It's like you got a skin rash and they're like, here, sir, take these. It's like, should I just get a lotion?
We're gonna give you a shot. And it's all cloudy, like you're like, what is that?
Now we're gonna place you in the room with a buffalo.
And we're gonna have to do
take your clothes
test
off
on you. We're gonna have to wait right here for about 2 hours. Yeah.
Let us know if you start to hear any voices. It's like, I just have a skin rash. I'm just breaking out here on my leg.
I just need a little eczema cream. That's all I need. I have some allergy pills, maybe. Okay, so gonorrhea, syphilis. The Tuskegee. There's another.
Oh, the Tuskegees.
Yeah, that's one, and then there was a Guatemala syphilis. There's 2 syphilis experiments, but then there was also.
Oh yeah, and the Guatemalan one, they exposed the children to STDs.
Or was that gonorrhea? Nope, it was syphilis and gonorrhea is what they did on Guatemala.
Yeah, and those were like anybody whatsoever.
Yep. They injected 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
And some of them they gave penicillin because it cured it, and then others they didn't so that they could chart their progress as they grew.
Yeah, they just wanted to watch them rot.
Fucked up, everybody. That's upsetting. Can you believe that shit?
That's your government. But you know what? We could sit here for like 10 hours and just a laundry list of how the U.S. government has destroyed lives.
I feel that way about it. Infected mosquitoes in town.
That's so evil.
Biological
Mosquitoes
warfare,
aren't bad enough.
right, on the cities of Savannah, Georgia, and Avon Park, Florida. See, right there, it tells you something in Florida. In one such experiment, millions of infected mosquitoes were released into the two cities in order to see if the insects could spread yellow fever and dengue fever. Not surprisingly, hundreds of researchers contracted illnesses that included fevers, respiratory problems, stillbirths, encephalitis, and typhoid. In order to photograph the results of their experiments, Army researchers pretended to be public health workers. Several people died as a result of the research.
See, now, things like that, you think that, okay, more people died of, like, malaria than anything else in the history of man.
Oh, what about the bubonic plague?
But the idea is that, well, you kind of already knew what was going to happen. It's like, if you, I don't care if you call it science. If you take a gun, you load it, you're like, I'm going to shoot this person in the head and see what happens. And you shoot him, and then it's like, yeah, he died. It's like, yeah, of course he did.
Yes, he did.
We knew that already. What was the point of this?
Wonderful observation,
We
Bill.
could have told you that one.
Oh, radiation. That's a big one they like to relay. The Manhattan Project, for one, which, if you don't know, was the project where we developed the atomic bomb that we eventually dropped on a couple of cities. They originally didn't mean to test.
No, it started with like one guy. He accidentally, through his own fault, he exposed himself to a great deal of radiation.
And his name, just so everybody wants to, don't be a Harry Daglian. Alright?
Did you say Harry Daglian?
That's his name.
Sounds like,
I don't know, you guys can Google it. I mean,
find on my dusty balls or something.
I know, that's what Harry Daglian. It's Daghlian. Anybody out there is a linguist.
Find pictures.
Yeah. Triggered a sudden burst of radiation from a plutonium core he was working on and exposed himself to a fatal dose of gamma rays that killed him 25 days later. So he suffered for like 25 days. Daglian had violated safety standards, and the observations of how he died did not make his experience any worse during his long, painful death, but it opened up an inquiry that causes many more to suffer later on. Because then they started...
Let's see if we do it to other people.
Yo, look what happened to this guy. I did not know. I'll have to try something else. As early as 1943, staff working on the project suspected that some of their physical ailments were related to their work. An internal memo discussed whether or not to alert one worker, a woman suffering from kidney failure, to the potential cause of chronic exposure to radioactive polonium. That's a new one. The decision was then made to hide the truth. Soon, universities of Chicago and California, and from the military hospital at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, living human patients were injected with polonium and other radioactive elements to study their effect on the body. They also did that at hundreds of people, including 57 mentally handicapped children in Massachusetts, and more than 100 disabled adults in Chicago were fed or injected with plutonium. That
was the worst one. That one I saw, and it kind of broke my heart.
Isn't that awful?
I mean,
people are monsters.
You got a question at that point. What makes us any better than those little Nazi doctors who were operating?
I left that one out just because that shit was so horrific. I was like, oh, that might be a little too dark for.
Yeah, well, that wasn't the U.S. government that did.
No,
that.
and I tried to keep it just as the U.S. based.
Yeah,
because there were some international ones that I found,
but we always hold ourselves by these standards, like because we're Americans.
Our government will kill us.
Well, because we're Americans, it's like we always try to convince ourselves that we're fighting for the good. You know, we're fighting for morality. You know, we're fighting for the betterment of mankind. That's what this is for. I mean, there's nothing showing that we're doing anything any better than anybody else.
No, that's the great American lie. The great American dream is dead, but the lie is still alive.
Isn't it?
Yep. We're the best in the world. Actually, we're pretty awful anymore. Look at our president. I think it shows how out of touch our country is with the current state of the world.
It shows.
It's not a reality show. Politics is not a reality show.
No,
this shit is not written by somebody. Okay.
Yeah, it bothers me. It really does. It feels like we made some progress for a while, and then all of a sudden we're doing it in a very short span of time.
We got a sex study here.
Another one?
The tea room sex study. Sociologist Loud Humphreys often wondered about the men who commit impersonal sexual acts with one another in public restrooms.
Like one dude blowing another guy, but I'm not gay.
I'm not. You know what? But that's
I wonder if he
true.
said no homo.
You know, no homo, bro. That cracks me up. He wondered why tea room sex, fellatio in public restrooms, led to the majority of homosexual arrests in the United States. Humphreys decided to become a watch queen.
Why is it gotta be queen? Why just be the watchman, watch guy? It's gotta be the watch queen.
The person who keeps watch and coughs when a cop or stranger gets near. For his PhD dissertation at Washington University.
He did this for a PhD.
This is my thesis. This is my thesis
This
paper.
is my thesis.
We found that 50...
Dudes blowing dudes in restrooms. This is my thesis. I always pictured something a little more grand.
You know, that is pretty grand. I mean, think about it. Whoa, blew the top off that.
I mean, for the people that are involved,
that was
sure.
a pun. Throughout his research, Humphreys observed hundreds of acts of fellatio and interviewed many of the participants. How was that blowjob for you?
I'm starting to think this guy had
okay?
ulterior motives.
I think he wanted to check out the gay scene without being classified as gay. Like, I just want to check it out, but...
Does it say when it was?
No, actually, sadly, it does not have a year. I'm going to say I bet you the 60s. The 50s or the 60s. Probably the 60s, because that was cool.
Yeah,
Maybe the 70s.
I can see why someone would try to look for avenues to kind of delve into that.
Oh.
You know, as far as being like, well, I'm just doing this for science, guys.
Check this out. Humphreys observed hundreds of acts of fellatio and interviewed many of the participants. He found that 54% of his subjects were married and 38% were very clearly neither bisexual or homosexual.
That was his findings at the time.
Yeah.
I think now we might bring that into question.
Yeah, I think the numbers have gone up, sir. Humphreys' research shattered a number of stereotypes held by both the public and law enforcement. So they all thought it was just the gay dudes getting it on. It's like, no, there's a whole lot of married dudes sneaking up in there getting their dick sucked. So, yeah.
I wonder how many people became watchmen for their own scientific research at that point.
I just need to make... I don't know what's going on here, but...
I'm just testing his findings.
That's
all. I'm just...
Research. Just doing some research on the homosexuals. You know? It's all animals. And then I also found a whole bunch of experiments that we like to do on prisoners, which the 13th Amendment, as I've stated before, it only applies, where it abolishes slavery. If you are in prison, that is the only form of legal slavery allowed in America now. So that's why we have so many private corporations that want to buy up prisons, because then it's legal slavery. They can pay them 2 cents an hour. So
do what you want with them.
Yeah, basically. So I found like 4 or 5, like the Stateville Penitentiary malaria study, random medical experiments on prison. They did like sterilization, possible treatments for the Spanish flu, testicle transplants on living prisoners using testicles from executed prisoners, and in some cases from goats and boars. I know.
You
Did you just give me boar balls?
Right? You wake up and you got a goat's testicles
hanging. Who gives people boar balls? Project Artichoke, and that's kind of an interesting mind control. I did want to kind of scoot over some mind control. The CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence ran a series of mind control projects in an attempt to answer the question, can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature?
Yeah, that was like MK Ultra. And
no.
Like that,
well,
right?
This one's called Project Artichoke. They studied hypnosis, forced morphine addiction, drug withdrawal, and the use of chemicals to incite amnesia in unwitting human subjects. It's like Jason Bourne. Though the project was eventually shut down in the mid-60s, the project opened the door to extensive research on the use of mind control in field operations. Which probably takes us to Project MK Ultra, which was a CIA-sponsored research operation. Ooh, human behavioral engineering, you say?
It bothers me that they were always doing anything they could to try and turn people into mindless zombies.
Little robots. You just do what we want, and this will all go a lot smoother.
What was the point of all that? Like, they really just wanted to turn us all into zombies?
That was it. I mean, they had the way they broadcast TV back then, the perfect family, the way you're supposed to behave. I mean, they kind of brainwashed America through the 50s. Like, this is the American dream. You grow up, you get married, you have 2 kids and a dog. You go to work every day, little wife stays home. I mean, that's what they tried to sell us after World War II. That was what you should do. And
Yeah.
over the ensuing decades, it was like, we don't like this box you put us in.
They demonize anything that falls outside of those standards.
So we're just going to flow out of it like a Roach Motel.
And we're still fighting that today. Every day. We will be forever.
Oh my. It says, these unwitting human test subjects were plied with LSD and other mind-altering drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, oh my god, and various forms of torture. This was Project MKUltra. Research occurred at universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. I don't doubt that. Though the project sought to develop chemical materials capable of employment in clandestine operations. I forget the S off that word. Project MKUltra was ended by a Congress-commissioned investigation into CIA activities within the U.S. So,
once again, it's okay if the government's doing it.
it's always okay
It's
if
for
they're
science.
doing it. Yeah, they can murder people, obviously, and it's like, well,
That
it's for
is,
the greater good, everybody.
as long as you didn't do it of your own
greater
volition,
good.
it's fine. You know, if you knew about it, then well, obviously you're demented. There's something wrong with you. You're a criminal.
We're all demented. I believe that. Those are just some of the experiments that the government has done on, especially in the 40s and 50s. There were some very experimenty type folks.
Yeah, it blew up.
It sure did, and then they were like, we better roll this back because we're going to fucked up a population.
I bet you it had something to do with the idea that, the Nazis started doing it first.
Yeah.
You know, and then we're like, wow. Because,
Well-
the thing is, when the Nazis did it, those are... Yes, it's awful.
Yeah.
It was terrible, and no, it should never
but
happen. But it
there
led to
was
things
that-
like open heart surgery.
Yeah.
It led to a lot of medical understanding.
I know a lot of people don't want to talk about that because it's dark as hell, but a lot of our medical advances in modern is because of some of the really sick shit that the Nazis did.
Right. So it's a trade-off, but one that nobody should ever consciously make.
Well, I didn't include it on here, but our last episode or the episode before that, we talked about Henrietta Lacks, who she was, it was on one of the websites that you sent to me, and her cells were biopsied because she had cervical cancer, and it's the HeLa cell line
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I read
originated
about
from
that.
her. We did a whole episode on her.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, we did a whole episode. It was really cool. We're talking about like how it's created breakthroughs in like cancer and AIDS and leukemia, and it basically it's an immortal cell line. You know, and it doesn't die; it just keeps, and they can actually test. And that
Buried without a tombstone.
Yeah, I know.
She died penniless, and
they don't even know where she's buried. They just put a headstone up for her because, and it wasn't until like 1973 that a reporter told the Lacks family about it. Like nobody said, it was just because the doctor who did her biopsy, he had I think his name was like Dr. Dane, something like that. It was very strange. And he would use the first two letters from the first and last name, and that was why it's called the HeLa. And it was the first immortal cell line, but it got, wherever they had stored it, at one point, it's such a strong or a powerful cell line that it overtook all the other cell samples in the same storage facility. Like, it contaminated everything, and that's how it came about that it was found, that, you know, the family found out about stuff, was because researchers started contacting the family because they wanted a pure HeLa cell line again, you know? And they didn't know anything about it, and that's how it came. That's how actually everybody found out that all came from just one woman who, she died at age 35 or 25 of cervical cancer. She had a big, huge tumor on her cervix, you know? So, anyways, I didn't include it on here, but the same thing, you know? They took a biopsy of her cells without her permission or them knowing and sent it out, but it went to thousands. It was the first cell factory, you know, where they produced it and sent it to researchers around the world. And so it was awful, and it wasn't very nice, and they didn't ever credit it to her or anything, but...
Well, that tends to be a typical thing, doesn't it? It's like they want to make sure that they can, you know, suck up any benefit from it,
Right.
and they don't have to share it with anybody.
Yeah, why should they have to?
Right.
Fuck the government.
Oh, God, to death. Fuck them to death.
In the butt. No lube. What's that?
That's probably
what's
how
that,
you would do it.
What's that mean?
I mean, if you're really going to approach someone and try to fuck them to death, they would probably be in the butt with no lube.
What's that beam? Prepare your anus.
Oh yeah, with the jumping
Deer.
Yeah.
I think
One
it's a deer.
flying through the air.
Prepare your anus. That's scary. Anyways, So, we're going to talk about the dioxin test, also known as Agent Orange. And, Miller.
Yeah, I want to say this guy's name so everybody can remember his name in infamy.
Do you know how to say
Kligman?
it?
Kligman. I want to say Kligman.
We're going to say it's Kligman. And I
His
feel
name
bad
is
for all them
Dr.
Kligmans out there.
Albert Kligman.
Alberts are just fucked up, aren't
He
they?
was a dermatologist, okay, and he did a study on dioxin. He wanted to observe how human skin reacts to harsh chemicals, a process known as hardening.
Ugh, that sounds gross.
Oh,
I'm
but
sure
the thing is that all of his notes were destroyed. He burned it all because he did such heinous fucking shit that, yeah, you got to cover that up because you'll be ranked up right there with all the nasty Nazi doctors.
Well, you know what? We were talking about that, and a lot of the Nazis actually came over from Germany. There is a train behind us, everybody.
It's not the fun kind.
No, I usually don't hear them that well, but
Like the one someone runs on your mom. It's not that kind of train.
That one sounds different.
It doesn't sound like Uncle Bob.
No, that's so gross. I have an Uncle Bob. Miller.
We'll put a disclaimer.
That was I already tag him as explicit. It's fine. And he tend to make some inappropriate jokes. So okay,
so he was testing dioxin.
Yes.
So things like Agent Orange. I like this.
We were
this
spraying
quote.
all over Vietnam.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. We were already doing it at the time. They just hadn't really even studied it yet. This was 1965.
Mm-hmm.
And I like his thing that he was so happy when he acquired test subjects from Wholesomburg Prison in Pennsylvania. And he said, this is like exciting. He's like, all I saw before me were acres of skin. It was like a farmer seeing a fertile field for the first time.
You sick fuck.
What a sick... What a way to look at that.
What is fucking wrong with you? I'm serious. What makes you think that is okay? You know he had a lampshade made of skin.
Yeah.
With some weird ailment. Like, this is actually a specialty lamp. This person had a...
He puts lotion on it. He's like, I'm just doing science.
Just
just
want to see how long it takes, how long you can keep skin looking good on a lampshade. Moisturize me. I love that reference. Sorry.
So yeah, dioxin, the active ingredient in Agent Orange.
Yep.
I like how this person who worded this said victims because that's appropriate, not subjects,
Victims.
not patients. Victims. 468 times the recommended safe dosage.
Is there a safe dose of dioxin? You know, I don't think you should have any of that.
No, it's probably not. It's like, there's a safe amount of,
I guess we should have looked
hammer
that up.
blows to the head.
Yeah.
You
can
3
take
is
one,
safe. Everybody can
everybody.
take 3 hammer blows
I
to
don't
the
know.
head.
3 good ones could really
right.
smash a bull.
4, if you double it.
Especially with a ball peen hammer. But let's not get dark. You know how much I love forensic files. Okay.
But he was fine with it, and the fact is that this was all done in, like I said again, in the name of
I am shaking my head
science.
and I got a dirty look on my face because I'm just reading about he injected his victims with a reported 468 times the recommended safe dosage.
Yeah.
468 times the safe. People had to be on fire. A blister agent and a systemic toxin.
Where do you round off the 468?
Yeah.
Like 100, 200, 300.
That is a really
400.
weird number.
No, let's go.
You're right.
450? No, 468.
468 will do, right? That's probably like without killing them. I don't know.
This is all he had at the moment. He's like, I would have put more in here, but this is all that I made at the moment.
And their names were amongst the records that Kligman. How did you say it?
I said Kligman.
Okay, it's Kligman, everybody. That is set in stone now. It's not
That's
GIF.
a very
it's
German
not
name.
GIF. It's GIF.
I'm mostly German. I'm going to say that in advance because,
Yeah,
no,
you're German
that wasn't
Irish.
in advance. I didn't do that in advance at all. I did that kind of bad.
No, it's fine now. I mean, you can say after the fact.
Yes.
By the way, I'm German.
I don't know. I don't think it's being German, but there's a reoccurring theme.
You know what's funny is when Miller met my grandma and he introduced himself. She is 86 years old or so she grew up after the Germans came. You know, she has a memory of the Germans, and she was like, "Are you sure your last name wasn't originally Mueller?"
Because most Millers are.
Yeah.
Most Millers are
But she was insinuating.
Not most, but there's a great deal.
Are you sure you're not from Nazis? That was like one of her first questions.
And I was like, no. I was like, no.
Absolutely
I was
not,
like,
ma'am.
I said Miller's an Irish name, and then we actually did the research and come to find out, nope, I came from Germany.
Well, Miller's did, but his maternal side came from Ireland, so he's German-Irish. Everybody, don't
German
let him.
Irish, like most people.
Don't
in those
let
regions.
him. Yeah, pretty much. That's
So
what-
I've only got a little bit. I got some like nasty tendencies to me.
just
You know,
a
every
little
once
bit.
in a while.
Oh, not all Germans are bad. Come on now.
I just want to experiment on a twin.
Just some of them,
Or-
you know, just like the most evil people grouped up for a minute. Like, hey, let's get the worst of the worst in here. People with no sense of humanity.
But they
at
keep
all.
showing up.
Yeah.
They keep showing up in
It's a
history. It's
gene.
like the Germans are doing something fucked up again, guys. Like
Genetic
just
engineering.
brutal.
Yep. We need to engineer the Nazi gene out. Did not see that coming.
It's
so
not fair though. To keep
We talked
referring
about
to Nazis.
prisons. And we talked about. Oh, we did talk about the Manhattan Project and how those people were experimented on heavily. But radioactive materials in pregnant women. This happened during the shortly after World War II, which would put us in the same time period of about everything that we've talked about tonight.
Seriously.
Yeah, it was all in the same when they were like, let's just do human experiments before it becomes illegal. It's kind of like a rush on just about anything before you know that they're going to take it away.
I think it's probably a run on scientists thinking, well, look at all that they've learned. Look
Yep.
at all this information we've got from all these experiments.
Let's try
that we do.
everything.
And they kept trying to run with it, you know. And I'm curious how they sold that. How they sold that to the government to fund
Make it
these
okay.
projects.
So with the impending Cold War forefront on the minds of Americans, many medical researchers were preoccupied with the idea of radioactivity and chemical warfare. In an experiment at Vanderbilt University, 829 pregnant women were given air quotes.
How many?
829.
Jesus Christ!
We're giving some air quotes, vitamin drinks. They were told would improve the health of their unborn babies. Instead, the drinks contained radioactive iron, and the researchers were studying how quickly the radioisotope crossed into the placenta. At least 7 of the babies later died from cancers and leukemia, and the women themselves experienced rashes, bruises, anemia, loss of hair and tooth, and cancer. So they were like, let's just kill like 829 women and children real quick. See how that works.
Yeah, just for, just because we're curious.
And I doubt that any of them
Like,
came away unscathed by that. That's terrible.
You knew it wasn't going to go well. I mean, you knew it would be a bad thing to give these people this. I mean, there was no question in your mind. It's not like
What's
they're
wrong
going to...
with these people? I don't understand.
And this is the thing, through all these experiments they did that kind of blows my mind. They never did anything, like, nice. They never did anything cool. Like, they're not like, what we think if we give this certain vitamin, like, men's dicks will grow like 3 times their size.
You know how
Nothing
many
like
experiments
that.
they probably do for that? Because, it's a man-driven world. And so how many experiments out there do you
They
think
probably
that are,
tried. They
like,
probably tried everything.
dick transplants?
Shit.
You know what I mean? Like a way to permanently stay hard. Like you never need a Viagra. How many billions of dollars in government funding do you think goes into making Viagra like a permanent thing? Like where you can just push in a little bit on your, like, next to your cock and like activate it. How many billions of dollars do you think goes into the male libido?
A lot. But how many
fuck until we're 100?
How many testicles do you think have been destroyed in the process?
The ones that weren't transplanted.
Fields. Can you imagine just fields and fields full of
Fields
lost
of-
testicles?
Some
Just
like
they're
waste,
gone.
medical waste. If you ever go to a dump, if anybody's ever been to a medical waste dump, please tell me what it's like to see a pit of balls.
But I guess what bothers me most about
Do they
all
shave
that
them
is
first?
what was the betterment for mankind? Because all of this, all of it looks into the better ways to kill people. And that's
right.
all I can see.
What's the most efficient way to kill people? Basically, that's
Right.
all it is warmongering.
And maybe so how they don't see it coming, or maybe they find it hard
What's
to
really
track
scary
down.
is we don't really know anything at all about our government and what they have and what they can unleash on others. Because we know like 2% of what And we don't usually get information until they have to tell us, you know.
Right, and this was all from the 50s.
This was
maybe 60s, but that's about as late as it goes. So what are they doing now?
So
what do you think they're up to
65 or so years ago, folks. I mean, we're talking. What do you think that you think? I know they didn't stop. I mean,
no, you know they
talk
didn't.
about chemtrails and things like that. I kind of believe that. I can see that. I can see them spraying stuff, putting stuff in the water. I wonder about that sometimes. Sometimes the tap water does taste a little off today.
It does, but...
And then you'll have the runs for 3 days. Who knows?
Well, what are you going to do? You're going to live your life paranoid?
No, I'm
just
going
to
let them sneak some radium into my milk. I don't give a fuck.
Let's be honest. The truth is, if the government decides it wants to kill you, they're going to do it.
They will do it.
You're not going to do jack shit. You're not going to be some guy in the action hero movie who's going to pull something out of his ass.
I'm going to be with a briefcase going into the airport. Like, I'm going to save the world with this little vial. This is the antidote to life. And it's going to have the number 42 written on it.
Everybody thinks, nobody actually accepts that when the disaster comes, that they're not going to be the person running from the great wave.
Actually,
looking back over your shoulders, screwing your ass off.
I've feared something big like that happening because we lived in Finley and it would flood and the grocery stores would be empty. You know, like people would get crazy. So I've seen people in minor situations. Could
you imagine if things got bad?
You know, like stampeding for milk and eggs and things that if it's gonna get that bad, everybody, how are you gonna keep your milk and eggs cold in the summer?
Things just that. There's a snowstorm coming, and so the people clear the place out. And it's like, well, what are your plans for after that? After your 1 week of food runs out,
right? Well, of perishable food,
right?
You know, I'm like 15th back in line with like canned goods, condensed milk. Like I'm gonna eat you in about a week.
Looking at the slower ones,
right? Like you probably should get some more butter. Because once you're dead, I'm gonna loot your butter as well.
Here, drink.
That's terrible. We've played too much Fallout.
Have this energy drink. You're gonna be delicious.
That's a terrible laugh. I'm sorry, everybody. No, really, that's kind of like the Fallout game. We go scavenging living things. Fallout is our future, everybody.
In the end, though, to sum it all up, I guess what I was looking at was the complete lack of any compassion in all of this.
Our government will slaughter us without reason,
just to see what happens.
Just want to see what happens if we kill these people this way,
right? It's just.
And you're
keep
always
shoving larger and larger things up your ass until it kills you. Let's see what it takes. How large of a thing can we put in your ass?
And but everybody's so worried about aliens probing it. You know, right. Listen, you got bigger. Your butthole's got bigger problems. It should be butthole insurance. That's stupid, I know. Alright,
would you have to take pictures before and after? I think you would.
Like an auto accident.
Like your apartment.
This
you
was
go
my
around
cinnamon ring
this is
2 years ago. Look at this beautiful, pristine. I didn't even shave around it, sir. I believe I get an extra gold sticker. I'd like to have that reconstructed, please. I don't know. How did we get into talking about reconstructing our buttholes? That's gross.
I keep leaning towards that with the scientific discoveries. I don't know why. I keep thinking that science needs to involve shoving
fixation that you're worried that you're gonna
asses.
Do you have nightmares?
I guess if I was a scientist, I wouldn't be a good one either.
Would you put things in people's butt? I'm starting to think you would.
I'm telling you.
Well, you're going on about it. It's like it's the only delivery method you know of. What doctors have you been to, Miller?
Look, Jim, I'm gonna study how
far
people's pupils dilate depending on the size of the object you shove in there.
That's awful. That's disgusting.
I mean, but it's just as valid as all the other ones. When you look through the list, it's like, well,
that's actually
the world has just too much to gain.
That is probably actually a medical study somewhere. Honestly.
Yes, there's somebody in the name of science taking something in their butt right now.
Jotting down notes in a little black and white composition book. Like, day 227. Diameter? No.
Mike is crying.
Filling.
Again.
Yeah, again. He has not developed as I had hoped.
This is the 10th time he's asked to see his children.
You know what? And he will when I break him.
See his corpse. That's what he'll see.
So that is a little bit about why you should not trust your government. And
You don't have any reason to.
When you...
Do you have a reason to trust your government?
No. And if they give you a shot, like, I don't like the flu vaccine. And I know, actually, Miles and I will yell and rant about people not vaccinating their children, but I don't like the flu vaccine, so I don't get it. I'm like, nope, no thanks.
I don't think in the end
they're going to activate it, and we're all going to become zombies. I'll be the only one. It'll be like,
yeah, you'll be the only one. We all think we'll be the only one.
Yeah, I'm like, I take that flu. We activating no H5N1 in me. No, sir. And that's just that's how I feel about the flu vaccine. I know you like to get it, but
I've had like one in the last 10 years. I don't get them because I like the idea that my immune system's working.
Yeah,
it's building. I feel like if you don't fight off infections, then your body's probably not that good at fighting off infecections. I know that's a layman's thought.
I like to eat with dirty hands. You know, I keep my immune system strong. I'm
right?
not joking. I don't play around, but I really don't get sick very often.
That's right. Lick dollar bills.
You know, just once in a while,
door
everybody.
Handles,
yeah,
the bathroom.
Yeah, put down the sanitizer and pick up a dirty dick once in a while, girls. You know what I mean? Put it in your mouth. Do it. I'm just saying, no. Or gentlemen.
I'm going to go find a mud puddle right now.
And slurp it just a little bit.
Oh, no, that's not what I had in mind.
Oh,
I was just thinking of helping you with your
That's disgusting. That's so nice. Does that taste like... Does it taste like a tire's gone through that a couple times? That's gross. Just think about all the things, all the bacteria just in a mud puddle. That's pretty gross.
Well,
but
that's
you know what?
interesting thought.
You could just be like, I'm saving your life, baby. Bloop,
we
bloop, bloop, bloop.
We have all these things that try and keep us as clean as possible.
Oh, I know.
But that's not how we evolved, is it?
Nope.
We evolved by being
survivalists.
Being out there in the filth. You know, by building up immunities.
That's how we live past.
Trying to keep all that off. It makes us weak.
Well, what was it, like 1,000 years ago? The average lifespan was like age 35 or something.
There was a time where that was the average lifespan. I always think
that's a long time. That's a long time ago, but that's not a long time to live.
I always think that's
a
because
hard-ass life, though.
When you're talking about average, though, you're talking about like there's also people who live to 80, but then there's a lot of dead babies.
There are a lot of dead babies.
As much as I like to, bitch about modern times, I think that's the one thing that people always forget when they like to think like life used to be better back in the past. It's like, yeah, but half your children died too.
Yeah, so you had 14 and only 8 lived to adulthood.
Yeah, just like one infection, that's it. You're out. You're dead. No antibiotics.
Like if somebody sneezed on you, you died the next day. You got the typhoid fever. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, too bad.
I actually don't know if that's. I don't know the symptoms of typhoid fever. It could be somebody else here could be like,
I
damn
have
it.
no idea what typhoid is.
It has nothing to do with coffee, you stupid bitch. So that was some conspiracies. Why not to trust your government? Some fun banter.
Am I going to be on here again?
You might be.
This is the only time?
We'll see how it goes. No, we'll see what the ratings, we'll see what the fans say. No, I'm just kidding. No, I would love to have you back if you're willing to come back. Miller's actually going to eventually start his own podcast. He's going to travel around with his gear or have people over. I don't know.
Yeah, I just kind of want to get in people.
Yeah.
Get people in. And,
are we back to the butt sex thing? Putting things in.
I got a problem.
I know. We just keep circling back to it. Let them call this a butt sex minisode.
I can't tell you why. It just happened.
He's got it.
But I want to get into it. I'm thinking about it more.
So
the idea for now is like the name of the ragtag grab bag.
Yeah, but you can do whatever you want.
The more and more I say it, the lamer that sounds. But I think I'm just going to stick with it because
that's my name. Okay.
I don't feel.
You shouldn't tell everybody. Somebody's going to grab that now. No, I'm just kidding. But he's going to have his own little. He's going to grab your bag. You really like your dick and ball jokes tonight, sir. I'm enjoying it. Usually, I was
talking all about the anus. You were talking.
I think we.
Except for the boar testicles.
Yeah, somebody got those transplanted on them. That's upsetting.
Like a few people.
That is. That's not very nice. I got boar testicles. Right. What do you got over there,
Here we go. They go to.
I think these are pig testicles, man. I'm smuggling grapes. That's stupid. That's a dumb joke. I'm sorry. yeah, I'll update you guys when Miller starts podcasting and hip you to his episodes. He'll probably be back guest starring and helping me get through this month without Miles. Did I mention in the beginning that she told everybody our last podcast she's traveling on like basically all of August? So
is she rich?
No, she's traveling for work.
Oh,
like she does expo shows and stuff. So she's working and she's like in Nashville. And then she's in Vegas, and then I think she goes back to Nashville, or I think she's in Vegas twice and Nashville once, but there's like one, like just a couple days out of every week where she's not gonna, she's gonna be at home, she's got 2 kids, so, she won't be able to podcast, and it'll be, if she does, it'll be a miracle. So, I'm piloting all of August by myself, and so, back to the point, Mr. Miller over here might just join me again, depending on who else, and, also, next season we're gonna start having guests on, so I wanted to experiment what it was like to podcast with somebody that's not Miles, because that's the only other person I've ever talked to over. Yeah,
this is new for me. Having this thing in my
microphone.
face. Normally, the mistakes I make aren't recorded.
You just gotta kiss it. I love you, pop screen. It's fun though, isn't it?
I mean, it's.
You're a nerd.
No, I don't think so. I really am. I wonder, actually, by looking at this pop screen, if that's what it's like to have, like, if someone put a dick in my face.
You know what?
That it's just really
I don't know.
takes up the whole, like,
People are gonna start
I
being
can't
like,
act normal because there's a dick in my face.
I'm
right
very concerned with your... So yeah, everybody, that's our episode for this week. Special thanks to Miller for helping me get through this hour.
now. Thanks for having me.
That's what he says to me after sex.
It's funny because it's the truth.
He is a very polite lover. I'll see you next week, and hopefully you guys enjoyed laying a little bit of knowledge down on you. Don't forget to see us on Twitter. You can buy us a cup of coffee on Ko-Fi. You can support us on Patreon. Our website, milesandcrawford.com. Catch us on Facebook and just about any other streaming platform you can think of. Catch us and...
All right.
Check us out.
I'm going to try to find some of these places that are doing this government LSD.
No, are you really?
No.
You got your house shoes on. You can't go out there.
Yeah, they got to change.
That's a flag. They'll pick you up in no time. They'll think, we live across from a rest home, y'all.
Oh,
you
I
can't
think
go
I look
outside.
like a good candidate.
Don't go out in your house shoes. We live across from a rest home. They'll think that you escaped.
Julia, they're slippers.
That's what I know.
They're not.
Everybody.
Wait.
I'm just saying, they might mistake you. Those are house shoes. All right.
Roberts stuff.
We'll see you next week, everybody. Bye. Say goodbye, Mr. Miller.
Bye.